Will Ragatz with Vikings on SI, here to talk about the Vikings' second loss in the last 5 days. They fall 30-20 to the Los Angeles Rams in primetime Thursday Night Football. The game ended with some controversy. We'll start there. Not really even controversy. The refs just missed a blatant face mask call on the Rams' Byron Young against Sam Darnold in the end zone. It was a 28-20 game at that point. The Vikings needed a long drive with no timeouts. Down 8, they would have needed a 2-point conversion as well, but they didn't even get the opportunity because the refs did not call a really blatant face mask. It resulted in a safety that made it 30-20, effectively ended the game. Social media understandably blew up. It's hard to fathom how the refs missed that call when there were two guys standing in the back of the end zone. One of them was maybe blocked by some other players, but one of them seemed to have a pretty clear view and just didn't blow the whistle when Darnold's head was fully yanked almost 180 degrees by the Rams defender. So that's how it ends, but that's not the entire story of the game. Kevin O'Connell didn't really want to talk about that afterwards. Obviously, he doesn't want to, publicly criticize the officiating and whatnot. And the refs, they're going to see that and know they got it wrong. The other story, the big story for the Vikings here, is their defense was torched for the second straight game. And when it happened against the Lions on Sunday in Minneapolis, you thought, okay, Lions might have the best offense in the league. That was uncharacteristic from Brian Flores' defense, which had been so good through the first 5 weeks before the bye, but maybe it was a one-time thing. It's no longer a one-time thing because the Rams did the exact same thing in this game. They were able to run the ball effectively with Kyren Williams. They were able to get big chunks of yardage over the middle of the field. Matthew Stafford throws for 4 touchdowns. I think he was 25 of 34. He got Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua both back in this game. Puka had over 100 yards. Cooper Kupp had a receiving touchdown, had a key 27-yarder late in the game that allowed the Rams to kill the clock a little bit before they ultimately punted. But just the Vikings really unable to get any pressure on Stafford. It seemed like he had all day. He was able to get the ball out quickly, which means the coverage wasn't great. So just the combination, the marrying of the rush and the coverage, which had been so good early in the season. The Vikings were coming up with 5 sacks every game and coming up with all these takeaways. And they did get 1 interception in this game via Byron Murphy. So it's actually the first time in the Kevin O'Connell era that they've won the turnover battle and lost the game because they didn't turn it over once on offense. But just concerning from the defense moving forward. And yes, it's Sean McVay and it's the Rams, and they are much better than they had showed through the first 6 weeks of the season, especially now getting Kupp and Nacua back. But the Vikings need to come up with some things in this mini bye ahead of their next game against the Colts. I don't know if it's Flores' scheme being kind of figured out, which seemed to happen a little bit down the stretch last year. If it's players not executing. They don't have Blake Cashman, their top linebacker, but you wouldn't think that missing one player would be making the whole defense kind of fall apart like this. So whatever it is, they got to figure it out. The offense started really well. They scored pretty easy 70-yard touchdown drives on the first 2 possessions of the game, but the Rams did the same thing. So it was 14-14. Darnold hit Josh Oliver and Trent Sherfield, of all people, for touchdown passes. Justin Jefferson was over 100 yards in this game for the first time since week 2. A lot of that came early. But then the Vikings offense really slowed down, and they only scored 6 points after the first quarter. They ended up with, I believe, 276 total yards of offense. They had 9 penalties as a team. That was offense and defense. So that's still an issue, just these self-inflicted wounds. But yeah, offensively, I mean, Aaron Jones, I think he had 21 yards on his first 4 carries, but really, after that, not much. There wasn't a lot of running room, not an efficient day, and that kind of hampered the offense. Sam Darnold took a few sacks late in the game that were pretty key, including the one that really should have been a face mask call and moved the ball to the Vikings 20 and given them a chance to tie the game late. But a frustrating night for the Vikings. I think there's a lot of concern. There has to be concern here. After you lose twice in 5 days. They've gone from 5-0 to 5-2. I should mention, which I haven't, that Christian Darrisaw appeared to suffer a potentially significant knee injury in this game. He came out right before halftime and was quickly ruled out for the game after halftime. So that's something to watch. David Quessenberry being in there, the backup left tackle, that led to some of the pressure on Darnold late in the game. And if Darrisaw's out, that's just a massive loss because he's been so good playing at an all-pro level this year. But yeah, you're 5-2 now, and the sky doesn't have to necessarily be falling because the schedule opens up a little bit. You're still 5-2. I think if you would have said coming into the season that the Vikings would be 5-2 through 7 games, most people would be pretty pleased with that. But the way it's happened to start 5-0 and then lose these back-to-back games, giving up points and yards in bunches, and now especially losing Darrisaw, I understand if some might feel like the sky is falling. But yeah, plenty more to discuss with this game moving forward. We'll talk about it here on the Bring Me the Sports YouTube channel, and we'll break it all down. And looking forward to lots of coverage ahead of the Vikings' next game, which will be Sunday Night Football in Minneapolis against the Colts on November 3rd.